Chair Lieber said, no, Mac is very professional. Fine. And there is one other member at the MTA board who did not vote on it because he's not a voting member, but he was part of the group that came up with the tolling plan in the first place. And that's John Samuelson. He's with the Transport Workers Union. And he was actually, resigned from this position just as the tolling announcement came out. And it's only interesting to note is that, he represents transit workers, and what he wants is for the MTA to spend more money on more service for when congestion pricing does go into effect.
So, Stephen, when can we expect to start paying? When does it go into effect?
Well, the MTA's plan is for it to go into effect in the late spring. You may notice in Midtown, the tolling structures are already up in place. And that's like the Easy Pass reader that will read your license plate and, give you the fine or, the toll and fine you if you don't pay it or send it to you. But there is, one major hurdle the MTA still faces, and that's a lawsuit from the state of New Jersey.
And Stephen, we know that legal action, what it could mean in this case, might the lawsuit hold up the whole program? We have a few seconds left.
Yeah, it's very much the fear that this lawsuit is going to drag on and delay the program. And what that would mean, though, is that the MTA is not getting money, so it's going to have to delay some of its major construction projects. It's already said there's delays on putting new signals on the A and C line.
WNYC Stephen Essen. Stephen, thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
WNYC is supported by the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, helping public radio advance journalistic excellence in the digital age. The Knight Foundation believes informed and engaged communities are essential for healthy democracy. More at kf.org.
Marketplace Morning Report is coming up next, and then in 10 minutes at 9 o'clock, it's the BBC NewsHour on WNYC. Let's check in with London and see what they're working on. London, good morning.
Good morning, WNYC. I'm James Menendez. Today on NewsHour, Israeli forces say they're surrounding the home of one of the masterminds of the October the 7th attacks. We'll profile the Hamas chief in Gaza, Yahya Sinwar. Also, a surreal encounter between our Russia editor and the former Austrian foreign minister who's friends with Vladimir Putin. That's BBC NewsHour at 9 on WNYC.
.35 and mostly cloudy out there right now. Chance of snow showers late this morning to late this afternoon, then maybe some sprinkles and flurries as well. We'll have some increasing clouds with a high near 41 today, so it'll be cold again. Right now, 35 and mostly cloudy.
More signs that there is not a nationwide scourge of organized gangs pillaging stores.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Total Wine and More, where shoppers can find a great Cabernet, bourbon, or sparkling wine for everyone on their list this holiday season. Total Wine and More. Drink responsibly. Be 21.
I'm David Brancaccio in New York. We have been covering the lack of evidence in the common narrative that organized thieves are ransacking retail in America. The latest development, the National Retail Federation has retracted a report about inventory losses related to flash mob thefts after finding that incorrect data was used. Marketplace's Nova Safo has been looking into this.
Yeah, David, this is a lesson in statistics, not always telling the full story. Sometimes we really need to take numbers with a grain of salt. In this case, we've been hearing over and over again from retailers themselves even that organized thefts have gone way up, violence is up, and for some, that's led to store closures. Well, it turns out, with the exception of a few big cities, really there isn't much there. The National Retail Federation has retracted its claim that nearly half of the $95 billion in inventory losses in 2021 was caused by organized retail crime. That's their term. It turns out that claim, the nearly half statistic, it was often cited by news organizations, was not thoroughly vetted, and it's actually not totally clear where that statistic came from.
So what do we reliably know about retail theft in recent years in America?
Well, we know what's in the crime statistics, so reported crime, and that comes from Washington, D.C. think tank called the Council on Criminal Justice. In fact, it found that when you look at the most recent data, there really isn't much to say outside of New York City, which is, of course, densely populated, so a spike there, which has occurred, has skewed the national data. But outside of that, theft involving multiple people is exceedingly rare in this country, David.
All right, Nova, thank you. It has been a long night's journey into day for European Union negotiators working in a marathon session to try to come up with pioneering new safety rules for artificial intelligence. Reuters, citing unnamed sources familiar with the talks in Brussels, says a provisional deal has been framed, but consensus has not been found on biometric surveillance or making software source code accessible to researchers and regulators. Reuters reports moments of tension with a drinks machine breaking down and not enough food and coffee. The EU is trying to nail this down this week or would have to ramp up again in the new year. The EU wants to lead the U.S. and China on regulating potentially dangerous AI. It could be 2 years before any of this becomes law. Hollywood's performers have voted to accept the deal worked out between their union, SAG-AFTRA, and the studios and streamers. A key piece of this were rules for using artificial intelligence to render artificial performances and who gets paid when it is used. And actors remain worried about the technology, as Marketplace's Sabri Benishore reports.
AI already does a lot in Hollywood. It dubs films into other languages. It made Harrison Ford young again in the latest Indiana Jones movie.
But I've been looking for this all my life.
Actors have been looking for rules around digital replicas of themselves. Those rules boil down to two things:
informed consent and fair compensation.
Duncan Crabtree Ireland is National Executive Director and Chief Negotiator for SAG-AFTRA, the union representing actors. If a studio makes a digital copy of an actor, or even uses parts of an actor's appearance in a digital replica, they have to get permission.
Going forward, our members have an explicit right to grant or withhold their consent from the creation of any kind of digital replica, and to make sure that if they do agree to it, they get paid fairly.
But these rules did not get unanimous support among actors. Abraham Ravid is professor of finance at Yeshiva University.
The reason is that they did not achieve a complete ban on synthetic performers.
Synthetic performers, actors that are completely made up by AI, that would act instead of real actors.
In the long run, it probably will be a lot cheaper to do these kinds of movies relative to paying Tom Cruise tens of millions of dollars to act.
On the other hand, he says audiences like to see their favorite actors actually act. While not banned, the union has to be notified if a studio is going to use a synthetic actor and possibly bargain for compensation, if compensation makes sense. But in any case, we are not there yet.
The technology is not so advanced yet that you could put a synthetic performer to star in a movie.
Sarah Moses is a partner in entertainment litigation at law firm Manat, Phelps & Phillips.
So some of the stuff from the SAG agreement is kind of preemptive.
And she says the technology is moving so fast and there is enough ambiguity in the contract for plenty of litigation and renegotiation when it is up for renewal in just 2.5 years. In New York, I'm Sabri Benishore for Marketplace.
Markets, Dow futures are down. I think the technical term is slightly. S&P futures are up 0.2%. NASDAQ futures are up 0.5%.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by the Schultz Family Foundation and the American Opportunity Index, a new ranking of how well companies invest in talent to drive business performance and advance employees' careers. More at AmericanOpportunityIndex.org. And by Schwab. Schwab offers investors choices like full-service wealth management, self-directed investing options, and trading on Thinkorswim. More at Schwab.com.
Members of the Group of 7 big economies have announced a ban on diamond imports from Russia as they broaden sanctions given Russia's war on Ukraine. The phased embargo will extend through 2024. Leanna Byrne, Marketplace BBC, reports from the UK.
The G7, a group of 7 powerful countries, which includes the US, Canada and France, has decided that from January 1st, there will be a complete ban on Russian diamond imports. This is a strategic move aimed at curbing one of Russia's vital exports that has so far escaped the grip of Western sanctions. And how it's going to work is in stages. First, there will be a ban on non-industrial diamond imports from Russia at the start of 2024. That will extend to a ban on stones processed in third countries by March 1st. Then in September, the G7 nations are going to implement a comprehensive traceability system for rough diamonds. The EU has been toying with the idea of banning Russian diamonds, but its proposal has been held up by Belgium over concerns it could harm Antwerp, the global centre of the diamond industry. I'm the BBC's Leanna Byrne for Marketplace.
On Marketplace with Kai Brisdall later today, you can get an update on a parched Arizona community that's run into new trouble trucking in its water. It's part of our How We Survive project on many public radio stations or stream from our homepage. In New York, I'm David Brancaccio with our morning report. From APM, American Public Media.